President Byrne,
Here.
Trustees Hebda, Cook, Marquardt,
Here.
Schultz,
Here.
Schwartz, sorry, Williams.
Okay, we have a quorum present. Would everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. We have one trustee that's coming late because of volleyball gamer practice, Trustee Cook. And Trustee Williams, you know, I talked to her at length, I don't know, in the last hour or so. And, you know, she's not feeling so good. And, you know, hopefully she doesn't have to go to the hospital, but, you know, she's, you know, I'm sure her bronchitis and a couple other things flared up, so. Okay. Next village board meeting is March 19th, 2014. That's all I have. Village manager, Calmer. You should put his name down, you know, just so I don't call him, you know, Allison like I used to call Lashin, Allison, you know.
Thank you, Your Honor.
No, I'm only kidding, so.
I just wanted to spend just a minute with you or so with regards to the electric aggregation update. As you know, the power supply agreement that we have currently is with Integris, and that it expires in May. The agreement, as you know, also calls for 100% green power to be purchased as a part of this agreement. The village is part of a multi-community consortium that is charged with bidding out this the supply, and consortium has been working over the last several months with the expiration pending to review the options for providing power to the communities, A, to decide whether we were going to do it again or not, and then B, go out to and seek bids for the possible power supply. Consortium decided to work with NIMEC. NIMEC is a multi-community organization that bids out power not only for electric aggregation or electric power for communities through the aggregation program, but also they do things like street lights and large electric generator type activities. NIMEC conducted a bid for us, and we opened and actually reviewed 4 bids today. The top 2 bids were from Constellation Energy and from First Energy for both green and brown power. Integris also submitted a bid, but it did not meet the other 2 bid companies. As a part of this bid, we asked for a 1, 2, and a 3-year rate due to the possibility of trying to obtain a more attractive rate over typically the 1-year rates that we've seen in the past. I will tell you that everybody's power rates are going to go up. That unfortunately is just due to demand, the time of year, and actually weather has a significant impact on that. The new green rate that we're looking at is 6.62 cents per kilowatt hour versus the 5.57, which we are currently paying. This amount would be applied over a 3-year period of time. Brown power is 6.52 cents, so it's slightly less than the green. As a part of doing this and reviewing the rates, we also asked our consultant what they were projecting ComEd's new rates would be. And what we're hearing, and we've heard this from multiple sources besides the consultant, is that ComEd's rate is looking to be at or slightly above 7 cents a kilowatt hour. We currently, under our agreement, have a 45-day termination notice with Integris that we have to provide if we are in fact going to end the contract. And based on the numbers that we received today, in fact, the consortium has recommended that, in fact, that agreement be terminated and that, based on the numbers that we received today, that the consortium is going to go with Constellation Energy. Tomorrow, before 11 a.m., the consortium is going to sign a 3-year power supply agreement to purchase the power from Constellation. I will tell you that the Buffalo Grove Village Attorney and the Arlington Heights Village Attorney are reviewing the power supply agreements for the consortium, so we'll be looking at those tomorrow morning very early. As a part of this, obviously, there is the option of going with the green power, which is slightly more. It has a slight price premium of about 1.4% above the brown power. NYMEC actually felt that this was a very good price, and right now they're seeing green power at a very cheap rate right now. What you're doing as a part of this is buying renewable energy credits in various projects that are out there. What we're seeing now is Arlington Heights and Palatine are going to purchase green power. Again, we've done it in the past, and I indicated that I thought we would also do that again based on the small difference in price. Just a couple things with regards to the contract. Again, it will be an opt-out plan, so residents will have the ability to opt out if they choose not to do that. The important thing to remember with this too is that because it's a 3-year plan, or a 3-year agreement, again, residents will be able to opt out at any time during that 3-year period. They'll be able to select their own energy service company or go back to ComEd. There will not be any early termination fees, and that was built into the contract we have right now. And that the other part of this is, while there is not a price guarantee in this agreement with Constellation, meaning if ComEd's price goes lower than the 3-year rate that we have here, we do have the ability to notify residents that, in fact, it would be a good idea to opt out and go back to ComEd or find another supplier. So, and again, the key there is that there's no early termination fee that goes along with that.
Ken, do we have any idea how many people in town participate in this?
It's a fairly high rate, over 90% from what I understand.
Really? And this, obviously, it doesn't include any, businesses or commercial users, right?
Small businesses up to a maximum annual kilowatt, and forgive me because I don't know what that threshold is, but it's small businesses only. The larger users have the ability.
Obviously, the mall doesn't
Correct.
Participate in this process. Okay.
That's right. So this is more information than anything else. If you're okay with me going with green, the previous resolution in 2012 authorized the village manager to enter into the contract, and I will plan to do so before 11 o'clock tomorrow morning, and we'll do a 3-year agreement for green power.
So we need a motion to that extent, right?
It's really up to you if you'd like to, Your Honor. Certainly.
Well,
I would do it.
yeah,
I need a
okay.
motion to do it.
All right.
I
Okay.
know for a fact
You
that
want to make the motion then, Mike?
I'll make a motion
Motion to do what?
to actually go forth with the contract for green,
3-year agreement, green
for
power.
green power.
Okay.
But with
Constellation Energy.
Constellation?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Trustee Schultz, you got your light in.
Yes, I just wanted to follow up on what John has indicated, and I agree with everything that we're moving forward with here. The thing I want to bring up to the residents is, if you're listening to this over the next week or next 2 weeks, you do not have to enter into an agreement with someone else. Today, my household received a call from an alternative supplier. In fact, they're my current gas supplier. And they said, Commonwealth Edison's going up. It may be as high as 11 cents a kilowatt hour. Now, I can't quote that as a fact. That's what I was told by the person that answered the phone in my house. But with that being said, though, it was somewhat of a scare tactic, and that, you need to sign up right now. You do not need to sign up. The village has consistently, over the course of our previous contracts, gotten you the lowest rate for electricity that was out there during these periods. I expect that our rate will, if not be the lowest, be right on par with other rates that you'll see over the next 3 years. So please don't be scared into signing up with someone because they're telling you ComEd's going to screw you. Well, number one, ComEd is not your current electrical supplier unless you have already opted out. They're the provider of the service to get the power to you, but they are not the provider of the electricity. So please be aware of that. Hopefully the press will follow up on this type of a story, because I think it's important that people get the word that, hey, the village is trying and has in the past succeeded in getting you the lowest rate possible. That's it.
Trustee Hebda, you want to speak to this, or?
Well, I was, in the importance of this type of information, would it behoove us to do a reverse call, just informing residents of what's going on out there? Because some people don't get the newspaper, some people don't get Channel 4, just to be able to communicate so that they don't get alarmed if they do get a phone call? Would that be worth it, just to kind of share some of that information?
That
I
may
mean,
be, yeah, I think that may, because actually they are being, you're going to receive a lot of residents are going to receive a lot of phone
Yeah.
calls, and they will be to the point of, you better do this now.
right, and I don't want anyone to panic and start to
Yeah.
change things. I wonder if it'd be worth it, just to share that information.
We
as
can, we
go
could
forward.
put some short message
Yeah.
together,
And direct them to the website
Yeah.
for
Yep.
more. I just think that might be a real good source for us to communicate, because a lot of people don't read the newspapers and don't watch Channel 4 and
Yep.
may not get it that way.
yeah,
Point,
we could,
counterpoint,
yep.
Okay,
right?
yep,
Yeah, yeah, sure.
yeah,
All right,
thank you.
send it, well, you guys will figure it out and send.
When you wanna
Send
do
the
it.
blast out.
Right.
I just want to, when did we go, with the fast warning of our citizens? Is it 5 years, 10 years ago? The
The,
real fast one,
the Blackboard Connect,
yeah.
I guess,
Probably more than 5, less than 10?
6 or 7 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
they've
we
gone
never-
through, they've
we-
gone through several iterations and names and stuff like that, so.
And we never got any TV time, but Naperville did too, because they're finally coming around to our mindset. Anyway, I thought it was interesting. Must have been a slow news day is what I really thought, so. In light of all the activity overseas, so. All right, okay, what's the next item? Nothing.
You
We
need
need
to
to
vote.
vote.
Building, on that one, okay, I'm sorry. There's a motion and a second on the electric aggregation, motion, roll call, please.
Trustee Hebda, did you second it?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Trustees Cook, Markwart,
aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
Schwartz,
Aye.
Williams, Hebda.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, Building Commissioner, Westfield construction update and overnight construction.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, just a quick update on where we're at construction-wise at Westfield. As the board is aware, the southeast and southwest entrances now are substantially complete. Maggiano's continues construction. They're looking at a late spring, more realistically, early summer opening. Smashburger is on a similar schedule. Dave & Buster's is nearing completion, and they're scheduled to open up at the end of this month. Construction on the northwest entrance would begin this spring and is scheduled to be completed in August. You've probably noticed that the biggest part of the redevelopment of the mall, the northeast section where the theater and the restaurants are going, they've started construction there again. Right now they're working on the caissons for the foundation. There's 32 of them. They range in depth between 15 and 20 feet. The next step after that will be setting of the steel, and that's where we're working through some issues with them as far as the staging. There's a certain number, a certain portion of the steel construction will be over the existing portion of the mall, specifically over the food court area, and for obvious safety reasons, people can't be there while they're setting that steel. So Westfield will be coming before the board at the next meeting, March 19th, to request permission to be able to do work at night to set the steel. It would be a 6-week process that would begin in April. It would not entail delivery of material. They do that during the permitted hours of construction. But they'll be here at the next meeting to discuss that with you, so I just wanted to give you a heads up on that. There's really just 2 options. It's either work at night or close that portion of the mall where the steel is being erected. So expect that to be on the agenda at the next meeting. And with that, if that section of the mall, the northeast section, stays on schedule, then they're looking at the theater and the restaurants to be open approximately in June of 2015. We'll see how the schedule goes and how weather affects that schedule, but briefly, that's where we're at construction-wise.
Mike, where are we at with the mobile gas station too? Where are they at?
Well, they're at a stand. They're at a. Yeah, they're at a standstill right now because of the weather. Yeah. And until we start seeing temperatures consistently above the freezing level, we're really not going to see any progress on it.
Residents have asked because it's been a long process, but,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
However, this will be the nicest Buc-ee's
It
I've
will
ever
be.
seen.
It will be.
Since I've sent photos to some people on the board. Just change the name of the existing mobile station to Buc-ee's, and you put up some kind of vinyl type shrink wrap, you know. Okay, any other comments or questions on this one? All right, is there a motion, are there any citizens that wish to address the board since I blew through that? No? Okay. Is there a motion to approve items A through G of the omnibus vote agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Go ahead. Trustee Hebda?
The Swelco setup that they're asking for this clothing, are you going to put out guidelines for that, Dave, or what? You just-
Yeah, should the board approve it, we would move forward with working with Swelco. They would drop off a box with specifics on it. It is a box that has a door to open up. You drop the materials in there and it closes. We would be contacting them to pick up any of the textiles and clothing that's in there, and we don't have to actually handle the materials. The company does that. And then we receive a third of the profit. Swelco receives 2/3.
Okay.
Where will these be?
We are proposing to put those next to our Public Works dumpsters, so along the brick enclosure. So when you're facing our gate, it would be on the left-hand side. We have our recycling on the right-hand side.
Yes, okay.
All right, so this isn't something that's going to, I guess, instantaneously appear in retail parking lots all over town.
Could be.
They have approached some private businesses previously to this, so they are trying to get the word out in terms of trying this type of recycling throughout all communities, all locations. That's one of the reasons we wanted to step forward and have it at a municipal site so we can better control it.
Right, but how are we, now I'll defer to Mike Atkinson. I mean, how are we going to control these
Enclosures.
in the parking lots and,
And maybe helping a little bit in terms of the size of the boxes. The boxes are going to be roughly, 6 feet wide and 8 feet high, 4 feet deep. So just so you have an understanding on the scale. How do we manage?
What are, there are a couple of
There-
clothing drop-off
Well,
boxes.
can we
Yeah.
let Mike?
Yeah, I'm
He
sorry.
was framing his thoughts, I could hear
Yeah,
something
I was-
grinding over there. on the-
Sorry, I was getting a little more information from Dave,
Yeah.
but the zoning code really doesn't specifically regulate the placement of these boxes.
Yeah.
So typically, the way we read the zoning code, if it doesn't indicated as permitted or regulated, then they're not permitted. There's been times where we've had to follow up with store owners to have some of these boxes removed, but they come back all the time, and it's just kind of an ongoing problem that we've dealt with in the past.
Because I think there's one over by the Wolf Camera, and I believe there's one in Sam's or somewhere in that big
Holes.
parking lot there too that I know. And unfortunately, when it gets full and then there's bags on the side, I just wonder who's responsible. That's not Swellco, that's somebody.
I'm sure that's where it gets.
Well,
kind
it
of
it would be
Yeah.
Swellco. I mean, if you call the business owner, you know what a number of times they said, these boxes just appeared here.
Right, they
and
probably
Can you help
haven't
us get rid of them? And
So they take no responsibility.
ability.
Right.
typically they do not, no.
Okay. All right.
Just a little more background. In other words, if you have clothing and it's lightly worn, they like for you to recycle through Goodwill, Salvation Army, whomever you deign to donate to. This is for really hard-worn clothes or bedding that has holes in it or any kind of cloth material that really has no value other than as a recyclable material.
They will take either. Their primary, you are correct, is for more the materials that they can't put on someone's feet or on their back. But they will take all of the materials and they will make sure it gets on someone's body also. But most of it is more cleaning operations, white T-shirts, blue jeans, etc. But they will completely recycle everything.
Right. And they turn it into rags, industrial rags,
Yes.
things of that nature. The whole idea is to
They
keep,
actually use it for insulation purposes.
Right. Yeah, the blue
Whether
jeans,
it's, I don't know, in a house or in a car.
They do.
The sound deadening effects, so.
Absolutely.
the whole idea is to keep it out of the
Out of
landfill.
landfills.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. About it on that one? It's okay, we got a motion, to approve A through G, is there a,
I second it.
second? Okay.
Yeah.
Roll call.
Trustee Schultz,
Aye.
Schwartz,
Aye.
Williams, Hebda,
Aye.
Cook,
Aye.
Markwart.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, unfinished business. Approval of Kemper voucher list of bills dated March 4th, 2014, in the amount of $1,724.21. Is there a motion to approve?
So made.
Second, is there a second? Okay,
With a number this small, this is below the village manager's sign off, or do we just do this because of the situation?
Well, we submit every payment to the village board, sometimes retroactively, where the manager will approve it beforehand, and then, and then it'll be retroactively approved. But every payment we make gets approved by the board.
Okay.
okay. Motion is second. Roll call, please.
President Byrne,
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz,
Abstain.
Williams, Hebda,
Aye.
Cook,
Aye.
Markwart,
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
Motion carries. B, approval of the February 18th, 2014 Village Board meeting minutes.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion is second. Comments, questions, corrections, deletions? If none, roll call.
Trustees Williams, Hebda,
Aye.
Cook,
Aye.
Markwart,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
Schwartz.
Aye.
Motion carries. Approval and passage of ordinance 2014-014, an ordinance amending the Village of Vernon Hills Code of Ordinances, Chapter 3, Section 3-12, liquor license classification in Section 25, Section 25-3, fees. And this is pertinent to basically convenience stores in town.
That's correct. Convenience stores that do not sell gasoline.
Okay. All right, is everybody clear on this one? All right. Is there a motion to approve?
So made.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second, roll call.
Trustees Hebda,
Aye.
Cook,
Aye.
Markwart,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
Schwartz,
Aye.
Williams.
And for the record, I'd vote aye. Motion carries. Okay, new business communication approval and passage of resolution
Bye, Manny.
2014-021, resolution amending resolution 2012-128, and approving an amendment to the aggregation program agreement regarding consulting services, which would be Constellation now.
No, actually, what this is it the Plan of Operation and Governance, or POG, as we refer to it. Basically, in the original POG, it identified a specific consultant that we were using, and what this does now is broadens it and allows the consortium to use any reputable consultant to do our bidding, so to speak. So, and that's why we use NYMEX. So we're a little backwards simply because of the timing of the bidding process.
All right, so,
Motion to approve.
and is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second, roll call, please.
Trustees Cook,
Aye.
Markwart,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
Schwartz,
Aye.
Williams, Hebda.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, I'd like to adjourn the board meeting and go into committee of the whole to discuss budgets.
Yeah.
And we have to go to closed session after budgets, right?
Correct, for personnel
Yeah,
and
just
pending
personnel, right?
litigation.
And pending litigation.
Correct.
Okay, but we will not come out and
Correct.
conduct any other business, so, okay. All right,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
motion is second. Roll call, please.
Trustees Markwart,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
Schwartz,
Aye.
Williams, Hebda,
Aye.
Cook.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. I'd like to call the committee of the whole meeting to order. First item, approval of the committee of the whole meeting minutes of February 8th, 2014. Is there a motion to approve?
So made.
Second.
Motion is second. Comments, questions, corrections, deletions? If none, roll call.
Trustees Schultz,
Aye.
Schwartz,
Aye.
Williams, Hebda,
Aye.
Cook,
Aye.
Markwart.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. All right, is this Larry or the chief to start?
Actually, I get to start, Your Honor.
Oh, my.
I get to do some overview. Since this is my first one, so.
All right, well, this is a historic
It
moment.
is, and we'll make sure Mike Stordo gets this on tape.
Tell them to make copies.
Thank you. On behalf of the entire village staff, we're pleased to present the proposed FY 2014-15 budget for your consideration. The proposed budget is a tale of challenges related to one-time expenditures and ongoing operations. As you will find reflected in the proposed budget, we've been working on these items for a number of months, and I applaud our staff and the efforts that they've done to try to address some of these challenging issues. The proposed budget includes the following: approximately $500,000 to deal with the peak of the emerald ash borer problem. This is the first of two requests at this funding level. A third funding request at a lesser amount will likely be required into the future. A request for one full-time telecommunicator to be fully funded in the proposed budget. Excessive overtime and coverage issues have created the need for this position. Request for one full-time maintenance worker. Funding of the position is proposed to start at November 1st. The position is a placeholder in the budget and has been established to alert the board of the request and to allow for further study of the position to determine actual need and the possible alternative service delivery opportunities related to this position. Request for two full-time officers. Funding of the position is proposed to start on February 1st of 2015. These positions, again, are established as to alert the board of the request, and they are placeholders that are established within the budget as proposed. We'll also look at further study of these positions to determine the actual need for them and possible alternative service delivery opportunities. Request for funding the remodeling of the 754 building, being the original police department building. The estimated improvement cost for this project is $3.5 million. Funding could be provided either through the issuance of bonds or through the use of general fund reserves. We'll discuss more about that at the end of the budget process. Request to fund the upgrade of the New World software system, which is partially funded by the dispatch center funds. The upgrade of this is usually required every 5 to 7 years. And then finally, requests for a variety of capital requests that were previously discussed with the board, including VHAC lighting and $1.2 million in annual streets MFT projects. I will note that the budget does not include any change in revenue structure, even though we know that there's a very good chance that the Westfield development will require some change in structure later this year. I want to assure you that we are planning for the future and that later this year we will address future revenue requirements based on anticipated future needs as a part of a much larger discussion on the multi-year financial plan. This will also include discussions regarding the implementation of a home rule sales tax. A more refined multi-year financial plan will also focus on, again, this possible increase for home rule sales tax. Based on Westfield's improvements that are underway currently in the terms of the economic incentive agreement, this discussion must take place and will, as a part of this, suggest possible ways to reduce tax costs or expenditures currently paid by residents. Looking at the financial plan, we'll also talk to you about projected manpower requirements, capital improvement plans related to infrastructure and properties, capital replacement plans for vehicles and major equipment, long-term building maintenance schedules for all buildings owned by the village. That includes buildings and structures, and then possible alternative service delivery options. We will also review the goals that were set forth in the village's 2012 strategic plan. We will also then revisit large capital projects to ask if they are really necessary. We'll specifically focus on what projects, what the projected end results of these projects will be, and can the incremental improvement promised by these projects actually be achieved based on the projected expenditures. Going back to the comment with regards to the delivery of certain services, as you will note in the Public Works budget, there's a replacement proposed for the current senior bus. We will review how our senior bus program is provided to determine if there are better ways to meet the demand for service at a more economic price without compromising the current level of service. So before we decide to replace the bus, we'll have to ask these questions and be looking at things such as providing the service, defining who is using the service, and determining if there are alternative ways to provide it. Going forward, we do face some challenges, and some of those challenges include maintaining our leadership position as it relates to the retail commercial activities in town. As you know, Walmart will be relocating to Mundelein sometime in 2015. The challenge is to find another high-quality tenant for the property who can offset the loss of these sales tax revenues. While we anticipate that Menards will offset some of this revenue, our long-term goal, as you know, is to see our sales tax revenues grow annually. There are also a number of other unknown currents currently swirling around in Springfield, which will also impact some of these decisions. The state's deficit will impact every governmental body in the state. Local or LGDF or local government LGDF funds to communities are clearly in the crosshairs of the legislators, as is sales tax revenues to the individual communities. We'll need to be vigilant with regards to that as we go forward and work with our local legislators to preserve our position as we go forward. And then finally, going forward, development continues with the mall leading the way at this time. Other pending projects including Menards and the related development of the outlots on Milwaukee and Greggs Parkway, the redevelopment of the former Weiss office building corner, completion of the Buchanan Energy property, meaning Bucky's, build out of the Oaks of Vernon Hills project, and that once the mall is completed, we anticipate that building or development activities will continue to trend upward based on the synergies that are created by the mall project. I just want to emphasize, and I'll wrap up, over the years, Vernon Hills has taken a consistent and yet measured approach to providing services to our residents and customers. We've successfully navigated this recession, which is a huge credit to the mayor and the board who provided the leadership and framework to achieve this. Going forward, the proposed budget will continue this measured approach. It's also important to point out that the village can be characterized by most accounts as a very good, financially strong municipal organization. We hold a AAA bond rating, a strong balance sheet, have strong retail community, and we operate in a highly desirable area of the county and the state. And I guess with that, I'll turn it over to Larry, and he can walk through the specifics in the budget.
Okay. First, the overall budgeted deficit among all funds is about $559,000, but it's really a tale of multiple funds. And I'll start with the general fund, which has a budgeted deficit of $264,000. But keep in mind that there's about $500,000 of a one-time project that's basically, well, not one time, but one time over the next couple of years, which is the Emerald Ash Borer. So without that, we'd be talking about a $236,000 surplus within the general fund. But one further complication, the general fund does have the increases that were agreed to in collective bargaining agreements with the police officers and sergeants, but not for the unresolved collective bargaining agreement as well as the non-union employees. The overall general fund expenditures are $20,556,529, which is about $1,081,000 or 5.6% increase from last year. Operations are $19,121,000, about a 9.3% increase. General fund debt services $722,000, about a 36% decrease. That's the result of pre-redeeming the 2004 Village Hall refunding bonds. Capital is $713,000, about a 16.7% increase. The tax increment fund is budgeted to have a $438,000 surplus. The motor fuel tax fund is a $494,000 deficit. We're doing a very large road project this year with the Corporate Woods project, and there's a lot of economies of scale to basically tackling that at one time. But that, as well as the problems we've talked about previously about the limits to motor fuel tax, mean that fund will be running a deficit. We have a $139,000 drawdown in the replacement fund. In the dispatch center fund, we'll be drawing down $100,000 of fund balance there, partly because of largely the rationale for that is that we have that one-time $150,000 New World investment that we are going to use existing reserves to help fund existing dispatch center reserves. The overall dispatch center budget is up about 9.2%. The other large item we have, that is an unusual capital item is the $3.5 million for the renovation of the police station. And that, for budgetary purposes, we're assuming a bond issue, but we're also considering the idea of using cash balances if we go ahead with that project. And, as John mentioned, we'll be discussing that you know, when we come back from more
Is
in-depth.
that one, Larry, you've ever thought about, going to referendum on?
Well,
gee.
we don't have the requirement to go to referendum. I suppose, that would be, I guess.
That'd be kind of probably tough to sell.
I'm probably don't have the best sense of how hard it would be to sell.
Have we ever done a referendum in this town?
Not for the village. I know the park district has, but we have not, and the school district, yes.
So do you want to do that, chief?
3 times.
Mr. Mayor, that's like asking me if I've stopped beating my wife yet. There's no right answer to that.
Well. But if it was going to referendum, would that cause us to maybe pare back on parts of this expenditure?
Probably not, at least not considerably. I think everything has been carefully measured and weighed and gone over, not just by our people, but by village staff and the builders and the developers to review what's necessary and what's required. I don't think it would cause many changes in the building. It would certainly slow the process down, that's for sure.
Is there any other, I guess, institutional use that we don't have in town that would justify $3 or $5 million to build that institution? We haven't had this conversation, so just,
No, we haven't.
what if I said, hey, let's use it to build a real senior center? Just to get it out there. How would that affect your plans?
Well, obviously, if funds were being diverted to build a senior center, it would slow down the plans for the remodeling of the station. Absolutely.
So does that make the remodeling absolutely necessary?
Is it absolutely necessary?
Right.
I would say no, not absolutely necessary. But as we've outlined before, about 30% of the building is vacant right now and can't be used for anything else. We have people.
Which is the existing real police station, not the American Family Building.
Correct. The real police station.
All right.
We've got 16 people sharing an office that was designed for 6. And that's just one example. We have many more female officers than we had originally ever thought we'd employ, and they don't have their own lockers. We've got the telecommunications staff, which none of them have lockers because we just don't have enough lockers for them. That's just the beginning of the list.
Okay. And so the rationale is to do it all at once?
I believe it would be much more cost-effective to do it all at one time than it would be to phase it in over 2 years. And certainly a lot more inconvenient. If it were to all be done at one time, we've discussed the possibility of, vacating the building entirely and moving into the American Family Building, literally with folding tables and chairs until the project can be completed. Otherwise, it would require closing off certain sections of the building, putting up plastic, and working in there while the construction workers were working.
Well, what are the top 3, I guess, improvements that you really, really need? I'll even let you go to 5.
Pardon? Obviously, locker rooms, the watch commander's office, report writing area, all the mechanicals in the building are failing. The roof needs to be torn off and replaced. Many of the doors and windows need to be replaced. The sprinkler system needs to be replaced. That's 5 or 6.
What do you think those are pegged at as far as cost?
Well, I know the roof, I believe, is about $300,000 or $400,000. The locker room, the problem is that when you start tearing apart one section of the building, it expands into somewhere else, and you lose that space. To make the women's locker room bigger, you're going to have to remove other things that you now have, and then those things are going to be displaced. And then you have to make more space for those things, and everything kind of it's like a domino effect. Once you start one area, it dominoes throughout the whole building.
But do we have enough space in the building to do it right, or some of this is going to go across the,
No, absolutely, nothing is going across the way.
Okay.
We're going to reclaim that atrium area. I believe there's about 700 square feet of that atrium that's going to be closed
and
in.
that makes that big a difference.
Oh, that's going to make a huge bit of
Okay,
difference,
so
because
to
there's
do-
3 walls that won't exist
All right,
anymore.
so to do all the improvements in the existing building, it's $3 million?
I think it's a little less. I believe there's money that's also included in, for the American Family Building, in terms of a, let's see, a dressing room or clothes changing area for the telecommunicators, a second entrance, and a walkway to go to the building from our building.
An enclosed walkway?
No, sir. And there's no underground parking
What do you
garage
mean,
either.
a covered?
No, no cover.
Well, oh, just, what,
From the employee entrance on the side of the building to cut a sidewalk straight across and to go into the side of the new building.
okay.
Yeah, I don't, you know, I know $3.2 million or $3.5 million is a lot of money. But if you look at the plans, there are not a lot of bells and whistles in this. It's mostly very functional, functionality. You know, it's not hardwood floors, it's not low E-glass, it's not halogen lighting.
Right. So is this going to affect the point on the front of the building?
Boy, I sure hope so.
So it'll be blunted?
I think it will be blunted. Also, I believe the color of the building will also change. The plan is to stain the brick the same color as the American Family brick, to get away from that yellow color as well. Make the two appear as part of one campus.
All right, I don't know, does the board have any questions on this as far as the justification?
We've discussed this several times, and there's nothing new that the chief has brought up. We're all well aware of the failing nature of the existing building, and we're all well aware of the need because of the change in the demographics of the staff. So this isn't anything new. We've talked about this for a year and a half, give or take now, maybe more, I don't know. And nothing's changed, and we all...
Well, this doesn't even come close to the mall. How long have we been talking about that?
Okay, all right, well, if that's the case, then
But that's not
Come
from lack of
back.
effort on our part.
come back in 7 years, give or take.
All right,
And the one thing that the chief didn't recognize was that I've seen the courts starting to use Title IX in different ways above and beyond the original scope and intent. So we're open for a Title IX suit if we don't arrange those restrooms or locker facilities in a more equitable fashion.
what, yeah, but wouldn't Title IX or beyond it have come into play because the males and females have over interacted?
No. Title IX just says you need to have an equal amount of facilities or activities. In this case, people are starting to use Title IX for facilities.
Trustee Schwartz.
I haven't been in the back part of the police department for probably 10 years, and then I went through it when this came up just to see what was needed and what you were talking about doing. And I really was shocked at seeing how the building had kind of decayed to the point that it had, and how everything was displaced, and you had boxes everywhere, and there was no place for the women to, they had no locker rooms, and everybody was squeezed into small spaces. So I definitely, it is a much-needed improvement, so.
Okay, look, we have how many employees, sworn and non-sworn, working in the two buildings?
I believe the number is around 72, give or take.
Okay, and what's the combined square footage of the two buildings?
I believe it's somewhere around 50,000. I believe it's 24,000 and change on both buildings, in each building.
Staff want to weigh in on that one? Give the chief some?
That's, unfortunately, I'm going off memory, but that sounds about right. That's what I remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for 70 people, 50,000 square feet, is that sufficient?
Well, again, you're talking about a building that has one room the size of a gymnasium in it, and in order to make that usable for other purposes, that would have to be renovated as well. We're not saying we don't have enough space. We're just saying that the space we have is not built out to match the needs and efficiencies of what we need today. It was when it was certainly built, and no one is saying the building needs to be torn down or build a new building. It's just that in its current structure and current,
Right, but who was here, who was chief when we decided to buy the American Family Building?
that would be me.
And why did we buy that in the first place?
To build a communication center, which is now the regional communication center.
Right? But not dedicating 24,000 square
No,
feet.
but true, but we don't have use of all 24,000
Well, what if
square
we
feet. A
boot-
third of it is being leased out,
Well, what
and
if-
was since the day we took
What
over.
if we boot them out of there?
Again, we have the space.
Well,
No one is saying we don't have the space. What we're
So
saying
would that
is,
help us, you know, if we move more operations into the American Family Building? Would that make this, you know, a less costly process?
well, you'd have to renovate the American Family space
know.
as well. And then you still have the problem, well, you've been in our building. You know where the old communication center is, the entrance lobby and the old record section. That makes up a third of the building. And there's nothing we can do with a two-story,
Right.
I don't want to call it an atrium, I'm not even sure what you'd
But
call that.
what I'm saying is the American Family Building more functional for expansion purposes?
I think you'd have to go in there and move walls and things as well.
Well, we got the gymnasium in there.
Absolutely.
Well, obviously, there's no walls in there.
Nope. But it would all,
Was
that
that
would,
even looked at, though?
well, sure, but there's no locker room space there.
Okay.
In other words, if you're going to start doing plumbing, I mean, I know you looked into the possibility of adding a second restroom facility in the new 750 or 740 building.
Right.
And we all know what the expense of that was. It was over $100,000. So when you start talking about plumbing and tearing apart the floors and doing that type of construction work, it does become very excessive, becomes excessively expensive.
Okay, but it's not $3 million.
Yeah, I don't know. But and again,
mean, you
we're
know-
still left with the 754 building in its current state, with the concrete walls and the bulletproof glass.
Well,
Up in the front of the
okay,
building.
to open up the atrium, what's the expense associated with that now?
To close the
You gotta
atrium,
roof it, and you gotta put it, you know,
yeah, that was,
Two and a quarter.
yeah, it was like 225,000 to
so
put
it's
the,
not that much more expensive than a bathroom, huh?
Well,
So two
No plumbing.
bathrooms would be the equivalent of the,
well.
opening up the
depends
atrium?
on the size of the bathroom.
If it includes steam showers, no, I kidding. Okay. You know. But
I mean, obviously, before this-
Was the blend of the two buildings really looked at?
oh, absolutely.
Okay, so the preponderance of the money's going into which building?
The old building.
Okay?
Well, and I think maybe it's also important, Chief, the focus of the police operations are out of the 754 building. That's where the officers and the command staff and the non-sworns all work out of. That's where they work, and that's, it's set up for that and the like. And, you know, if you look at beginning to say, well, maybe we can move someone over to the 740 building, you're then beginning to split those work groups up and creating some somewhat significant inefficiencies in there that some technology can overcome, but there is also the physical requirements of having teams together within the department. You know, command staff or commanders leading their shifts and sergeants leading their shifts and those types of things. So the idea was to continue to operate the police part of this out of the 754, or the original police department building, and work from there. And then the training space and the workout space and then the telecommunication space were separated and moved over into the other building.
Okay, so we have the leased area in the American Family Building, right?
Correct.
Is how many square feet?
Mike?
Maybe,
I want to say,
6,000 to 8,000 square
Yeah.
feet?
Yeah,
Okay, so that diminishes that 24,000 square foot building by, let's say, well, I'll average it, 7,000 square feet. So it brings it down to 17,000. So in that building, besides the dispatch center, how, is that gonna change at all in there then, or?
the dispatch center will not change at this point.
Right,
We built it with the idea of being able to develop a regional dispatch facility, which has gone very well. If we take on any new partners, we will have to make some modifications in that building. The offices that are in the communications center are going to have to be relocated. The supervisor's offices are going to have to be relocated out into the gymnasium room for a better room. It's a general purpose room. We use it for meetings, et cetera.
okay, but it is, so essentially, of the $3+ million, how much of that is actually gonna go into the old, the original police station here?
Oh, in the original police station, I would say probably 3 million, and I think there's probably 200,000, give or take, that's going to go into the 740 building,
Okay.
the American Family Building.
But, okay, but that building was bought for what purpose then? The American Family Building? You know,
So we could expand our communication center.
Okay, well, now well, you got 24,000 square feet to expand it, so is that,
Well,
one day it'll get that big?
Well, we moved all of our bulk storage over there, which is
Okay.
probably, I don't know, a couple thousand square feet. That's where we store all of our bicycles, all of our property, well, not all the property, but
Right.
all of our equipment, et cetera. We have our training room is moved over there since we didn't have one. So the training room is over there. We have a general purpose room. There's a lot of space that are taken up by the mechanicals. Our record section was moved over there. Social services was moved over there for a while. And then the workout facility was moved over there. And then the communication center, by and large, is the largest part.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to point out, too, that most police stations have basements, and they use those for those types of storage. Neither of these buildings have a basement in them. So it does prevent some operational challenges for the storage, and, some places have ranges in the basement, and some of them put their locker rooms and facilities down there so that they have the opportunity to work on multiple levels. In this case, we don't have those. I mean, so we're working on single floor space, single level space, in either building.
Now, prior to purchasing the American Family Building, we went through a needs study like this because we recognized that we were out of space. So we're going back to 2006 or so. And at that point, to add, there was an addition that was proposed off the side of the building, which I think was the length of the building and extended out 15 feet into our current parking lot. But I believe the estimated expense for that was somewhere near $15 million, which is why we ended up moving towards the American Family
Which would have
Building.
been thumbs down.
Oh,
all
absolutely.
the way across the board.
No, absolutely, but that was the cost proposal,
Yeah.
and that's why we started looking at other options, including the American Family Building. And that was a much cheaper alternative to get what we needed at the time than
We
building
paid
it.
what for the building? $1.5 million?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
something less than 2.
It was 1.6, I think.
Wasn't a bad deal.
It was a great deal. It was a tremendous deal.
Okay.
I believe that was your idea as well.
Trustee, I won't go that far. Trustee Cook?
Well, one of the problems I see is that we can't just talk about square footage. A square foot is not a square foot. I mean, you can have a 5,000 square foot facility that's completely different from some other 5,000 square foot facility, and it's unusable for what you want to use it for. And I think that's the problem we're running into here is no matter which building you talk about going into, it's going to require some money to transform it to get a locker room. You can't just take a place like the conference room over there and turn it into a locker room. even if it's the same square footage, you know, you can't, you would have to replace the glass with a wall. I mean, it's, square footage is not the same. It's not all the same type of thing. And I think that's probably the biggest problem here, is that we just have to understand the fact that we've outgrown the facility and need to, I mean, how old is that building? It's,
22,
yeah.
23?
I mean, it goes quite a ways back, and the
But
village was not
but
that
that's
big
kind of
then.
why we bought the American Family.
I
Building.
understand, but not to
And now it
do,
sounds like to me, we got the dispatch in there, we got room to expand the dispatch, but
We have the record section in there.
I know.
but we never
I mean,
bought it to, but we never bought that, there was never any discussion when that building was bought that it would be new locker rooms and the other things that we're talking about here, because that building does not have those. So even if you went in there to put them in there.
I know, but
It would still cost the same amount of money to redo the space over there into what needs to be done. It's not a matter
But
of square
that
footage, it's a
wasn't
matter
really
of the
looked
type.
at when we did the architectural study.
Well, I think we looked at all available space. We did. We looked at all available space.
Yeah, I mean, we had multiple iterations. I think
Yeah,
potentially a couple of dozen that we looked at.
yeah.
Connecting the buildings, building over the parking lot, doing any kind of different alternatives that could provide more efficient and more space as we went forward. And, you
Right.
know, and it was just a throw, let's
You
see
know,
what we all
because,
got.
Chief, do you envision, you know, when we're both gone, which it probably isn't that far off, speaking for myself.
Depends on how you mean that.
Well, I hope into the, not into the.
Retired,
you know,
yes.
not into the-
Departed, no.
Not into the great spirits guy, but, you know, I mean, do you see us having any more people working for the police department, you know?
It's
In light of
possi-
so much technological changes out there?
Well, it's possible. You know, for example, Trustee Schultz just sent me a couple of emails late last week regarding article that appeared in the paper about the 100 safest cities, which led to a discussion about what the statistics really
Were
say,
we
what
one
they
of
are.
them? No, I wouldn't go to, we're not a city, I know.
Yeah, but if you look at, so in addressing his concerns, I put together the sheet of paper which you have sitting in front of you right now with a couple bar graphs on it.
Okay.
And this just plays right into the discussion we're having right now. You know, Part 1 crimes and Part 2 crimes, which are the serious and then the not so serious, have decreased significantly over the past 10 years. But if you look at the calls for service, they're up nearly 24%. And when you're talking 20 or 25,000 calls, you know, being up 5 or 6%, it's another 1,000 calls. We are a very service-conscious community.
Right.
We provide the highest level of service. So it really depends on where we want to go from here. There's things that we can't foresee. For example, in a minute, we're going to get into the budget discussion, and we're going to talk about the development at the mall a little bit. I'm very nervous about what some of those things have done. We've reduced the size of our department, the sworn strength over the last 5 or 6 years by 5 full-time police officers. And at any given time, we have another 2 to 5 out on some type of work-related disability. So we're down anywhere from 7 to 10 officers at a time. And we're making do, but I do have concerns over what happens when we bring in, we are creating an entertainment mecca here in Vernon Hills, which is fantastic.
Okay. Chief, at some point then, when do we make the crossover between utilizing other communities' sworns in a regional type of a sense?
We've actually had discussions with a number of communities regarding just that
You know
type
what
of
I mean?
services.
I mean,
No, I do
You
know.
know, I mean, if we have the most, you know, I mean, it's kind of like dispatching, not exactly the same, but, you know, the sharing, you know, at what point do you kind of look at the cost benefit across the board on that, you know, so.
No, I mean, I know we've had discussions with at least 2 other communities
Yeah.
regarding those, and it's a matter of how we make that work.
But, you know, you got to step away from the curve here. We're adding approximately how many square feet to the existing building by taking the outdoor atrium?
700? Yeah, 700, 800.
Okay. And it's costing $3 million.
Well, that's an oversimplification because there's an awful lot more to the building than just taking out that atrium. The atrium cost is, I think, as John pointed out, somewhere around $225,000,
Which is 2 bathrooms.
which is two bathrooms.
2 locker rooms.
No, it's 2 bathrooms, not 2 locker rooms.
2 locker rooms. and-
No, the locker rooms
okay.
are really expensive.
All right. You know, but I mean, you know, that's, okay.
Well, I mean, we'll have the ability to value engineer this project, obviously, and there will be some things that are in the gross number that we have in the book that will come out simply because it's budgetary. And, you know, I think we have a nice tight number here, but there's more, I think, that can be done with regards to this. And we may decide that, you know what, all of the focus is going to be on the 754 building, and we're not going to do anything on the 740 building. Or we're not going to do anything at this time, and we'll come back at some point and do it. There are a number of decisions that haven't been made yet, obviously because we need to have a broader discussion with you all in terms of how we go forward on the project. I mean, and the building is antiquated. The 754 building, it's antiquated.
Well, that's why we,
Well, and we did buy the building next door,
well, I
but
mean, yeah, okay, you know, and I'm not gonna, I mean, obviously I'm not gonna second guess anybody on the second building purchase because it was
No.
a good deal.
Oh, absolutely.
And I was part of the board that sat here and.
It was a great
approved, You know,
purchase.
1991, it looks like a boat, you know,
Right.
or,
Okay, I wasn't here for that.
no, you know. And that was gonna be the last
Was that a-
station of all stations.
is that a
in
design
town,
charrette,
so-
by the way?
What's that?
Was that a design charrette?
No,
by the way?
you know, I think just amongst us, you know, it didn't involve the hood, so. Okay, well, I'm just, you know,
Pull the board, or?
Well,
no, I don't, you know, hey, all right, trustee Markwart.
Just a comment, again, I know, again, Tom, you brought up, we're looking at square space, but it's not always, again, the square space. You're looking at
Right.
a point where the needs now have changed in the building. Do you take the building the new building, where dispatches, I don't think it is. Take what we have and work on it. The budget, I mean, $3 million is a hell of a lot of money,
3 million?
3.5.
3.5.
Okay.
But we're gonna have to do something with that building. It's gone to the point where, what do you do with it? A 22-year-old building is gonna need work. Whether in fact it was expanded upon or not, it's gonna need work on it. And that's gonna be some big bucks. So,
But, you know, okay, you know, all right, trustee Hebda.
Hebda.
I know, I don't have my
I want to
bifocal.
pick up on Mark's comment too, because I'm concerned about what's going to happen at the mall. I'm concerned about what's happening in our high schools with our issues of drug use. And I think we are a service-oriented community and want to service our residents. And I do believe that times are changing, and I'll agree with you. I think we're going to have to expand out more. We're going to be dealing with bigger, broader issues on a bigger scale. So I think we want to make sure that we've always had the good planning and foresight with this building and everything to make sure that things function well. So I believe that what we're doing is the right track that we need to take. But again, I think all of us up here, maybe not, I am concerned about where our future is with our community, that we're going to face more heavier problems down the road, and we're going to have to deal with those, and our police department's going to be the first people to go out there and deal with it. So I think what you're doing is the right thing, and you have to move forward. And certainly where we can cut, we'll try to make those expenses and those cuts, and I think all of us will be in tune to that as well. So, but we have to go forward. We have to do something with the building to make it functional.
Yeah, I agree.
Chief, are we adding any jail cells or sally ports?
No, sir, we're hoping to have fewer prisoners.
Okay.
That's always the goal, but if that was the case, we all be out of a job.
We're gonna have issues.
Is the gun range going to be improved?
No. No, there are certain things that aren't going to be touched. The firing range will not be touched. The jail cells will not be touched.
Sally port?
Sallyport will not be significantly touched. I think there's just some reorganizing in there, but no.
Okay,
And the main washroom in the hallway will not be touched.
okay. All right, so, well, since we're discussing this at length, what does the board want to approve then for this portion of the budget.
Do we want to hear a few more summary statistics, or have I outstayed my welcome on that?
Unless you can give the mayor more insightfulness.
Well, this was just your summary, right, Larry? These were capital, and we've already kind of discussed this.
Right.
So, I mean, we're not here really for the capital budget so much as our operating budget, but you're giving us an overview.
Yeah, just a
So-
couple more really quick points.
But the capital budget in this instance is real money flowing out that, maybe could go into the police pension fund if we have another downturn in the market, but maybe that's not that important to you guys.
That would be different funds, wouldn't it be? So we're talking about either bond or,
There wouldn't have been different funds when they asked us, they had, what, $1.5 million about 4 years ago?
Yeah, no.
What was that, where would that real money have come from, Larry?
It all would come out of our revenues or our fund balance.
Yeah.
One
It
way or
wasn't a
another.
special fund, Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to be good for the rest of the meeting here, okay.
Just real quickly, revenues in the general fund, we're projecting up 4.9%, about 951,000. Expenditures up about 1,081,000. Remember, about $500,000 of that is Emerald Ash Borer. The operating budget within the general fund up 9.3%, about 1,630,000. Again, about 1,130,000 without the Emerald Ash Borer. Debt service down 406,000, and capital from the general fund is down 143,000. Obviously, that doesn't include some of the big projects that are funded outside of the general fund. Just quick highlights on the revenues. We're assuming 271,000 YMCA loan repayment. That comes from basically the Oaks allowing us to advance that. This budget assumes $2,378,000 for income tax. February 25th, IML came out with a new forecast, which basically ups that amount about $78,000. That's not reflected in this budget. So we've got $78,000 of good news not reflected in this budget. Sales tax up, we're projecting up 146,000, about a 1.4% above what was projected for last year, about 1.5% above what we received for the 12 months ending January 31, 2014. And finally, the final highlight I'll mention is licenses and permits are projected to be up 11% from last year, about 99,000. And that's my overview. Next, we would go into basically the police operating budget.
with regard to revenues and the Oaks donation, is there additional discussion that we need to have on that, or?
We will. The agreement basically says that I believe in 2016 is when they're supposed to start repaying it. We have kept the half of that repayment already, so we're 2 years early on that. Bob and I have been working on a letter that we want you all to look at and approve before we send it over to the Park District. Jeff and I have talked, and it appears that they are in agreement to allow us to keep that money that's in place right now.
How much money?
200 and something like that, 270, 280,000.
Yeah, but at some point it's gonna be how much?
Well, there's, I think, 270 about in FY 13-14, and another 240,000 FY 14-15.
Right. The total is about 1.2 million
Yeah.
in park donations, of which we get 50% at some point. So we're
We
gonna.
we might have to renegotiate that, take 1.2 million to give it to the chief.
He doesn't need it. That's okay.
No? Okay.
I'm okay with that.
But we'll bring back a letter for you all to look at it prior to us sending that over to the Park District. So not at this meeting, but at a future meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, All right.
Should I begin anew, or should we just pick it up where
Yeah,
we left
just,
off?
you know, I mean, I'm gonna start asking questions about, are we upgrading the sprinkler system and bringing everything up to the Boca codes? Is that part of this $3 million?
Absolutely, yeah, it is.
Okay. Is it?
It is, it really is.
New enunciator panels and all that stuff?
I don't know what those are.
You do. Sure you do.
Well, I mean, we can.
Oh, you're not a fireman?
That-
Oh, that's right. Those are those little things that tell you where the fire is when you walk in the door.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I don't know if I don't think we're gonna be touching that.
All right.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you very much for this opportunity.
Yeah, okay.
The
Chief,
police
any-
department's proposed budget for this year contains a mix of currently funded items along with a request for, request for some new items for your consideration. For the first time this year, for the first time in 15 years, we're actually requesting additional personnel for the department. This budget contains a request for one additional telecommunicator, along with partial funding for 2 additional police officers scheduled to be hired in the fourth quarter of this fiscal year. Now, this budget needs to be explained a little bit because it's a departure from the way we have done things in the past. In the past, the communications center was part of the police department budget. As we began to be a more regional communications center, we agreed that it made a lot more sense to break the communications center budget and the dispatch center out of the police department and move it into its own separate budget. So for the first time this year, you're going to be looking at 2 separate budgets, one for the police department and one for the communications center.
Mark, we did that last year.
We did it last year, but we didn't have a full year's worth of funding and stuff going into it. We were still moving money back and forth. So we have that this year. So both of them are going to require just a little bit of an explanation. The current budget for the police department, the current budget request is $9,099,503, which is about 8.4% increase over last year's approved budget. The majority of this increase is due in part to requesting of the 2 new police officers. As I mentioned, the proposed budget includes 2 police officers to potentially be hired in the fourth quarter of this year. Since 2007, the number of sworn officers has been reduced by 10%, 5 officers, and we have consistently had anywhere from 2 to 5 additional officers on some type of extended disability. While we've been able to handle all of the emergency calls and calls for service, my primary concern at this time is the opening of a lot of the new establishments that are being built now, more than like Dave & Buster's, Maggiano's, and the new movie theater. There's really no way to predict what the impact of this will have in terms of crime or calls for service and on our ability to respond. Many of these places are going, all of these places are going to be open late into the night when normally most of the stores close and our sidewalks roll up, so to speak, for the night.
All right, Chief, let me ask you a question. What kind of, crimes coming out of the same AMC theater in Mount Prospect?
No, actually, I don't
In
expect,
Mount Prospect?
to be honest with you, I don't expect much to happen within the facility itself.
Okay.
My concern is exterior to the building to the parking lot, where the opportunity for, either purse snatchings, burglaries to vehicles, break-ins, fights in the parking lot and the like.
So what's going on in Lincolnshire right now?
I believe they have, that movie theater is pretty busy at night.
Well, I understand.
And I believe they have 1 or 2
But
full-time
do you
officers
have
down there.
Stats from these neighboring communities?
I do not.
Okay.
As I say, it's going to be hard because while one has a movie theater, we're also putting a Dave & Buster's in the same place along with a new restaurant. Now, as I said, it's our intention to use these positions as just placeholders. I would just like the board to consider the possibility that this may happen. We're not saying that these officers are definitely going to be hired, and by you approving the budget, we are certainly not saying that these officers are mandated to be hired come the fourth quarter of this year.
Well,
We would-
when was the last time we didn't hire police officers when we budgeted for it? Recently?
You know what, this is the first time I've ever requested a new police officer in addition to our full strength. So,
Really?
and actually, like I said, we've gone down in the number of sworn officers by
Right.
5. So,
What was that, and that includes that doesn't include the guys that are kind of,
That does not include,
Disabled.
that does not include them. And at any given time, over the past 5 to 6 years, we've had 2 to 5 officers out at any given time, and that's been very consistent.
okay?
So all I'm saying is, I don't know what the impact of these are going to be. I'm not saying that we're going to that we are going to hire them. Obviously, if the intent was to do that, we would have to come back before the board and make a good justification for doing that. In the meantime, once these facilities open, we intend to use overtime to cover whatever we need to do to make sure we keep things on track. My concern is I just don't want to get behind the 8 ball on these things and then have someone say, why didn't you think about this before?
Okay.
Let's see. The rest of the majority of the budget increase is due to personnel benefits. As Larry pointed out, we did not include last year anything in the budget for the salary increases that were retroactive to May 1st of last year. That is being done in this current budget, as well as what we know already we're going to be contractually obligated to pay come May 1st of this year. And then, of course, all the benefits rise along with that, including health insurance, et cetera. There are very few additional items that are going to be purchased this year through the police department. I believe we have in the budget 3 new vehicles, but we're also going to be reducing the overall size of the fleet by 2 more cars. Last year, we decreased the size of the fleet by 5 cars. This year, we're reducing, we're purchasing new and retiring 5. I'm sorry, we're purchasing 3, retiring 5. Yeah.
And that'll be part of the group of vehicles and other village equipment that'll be at the auction.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Other than that, what I've done is at the end of my letter of transmittal, I've included a very detailed list of budget requests. And these range from anything from the moderately small to the rather large. One of the things, most of these are one-time expenditures. We have to replace our live scan fingerprint system. Unfortunately, that's a $30,000 expenditure. But we haven't had to replace that in over 10 years. It's reached the end of its life. They're no longer going to service it after June, I think, of this year. So we have to replace that system. That's how we do all of our fingerprinting now electronically. Most of the other items in here are, relatively small or have already been approved in previous budgets. So rather than going over everything line item by line item, if you have any particular questions on the other items for the police department, these 2 gentlemen to my left and right would be happy to answer them.
So where can you cut $1 million to help pay for the expansion at the building?
I mean, we have, it's like 92% of our budget is personnel expenses. We have.
Okay, well, so we're gonna hire potentially 2 more individuals, and that's gonna cost how much?
At full, about 120,000 each.
Okay.
I have a question concerning revenue. The school resource officers, is that 73,756? Is that an increase over what we've requested in the past, or is that status?
The school district is very good. They increase it by whatever our cost of living is. They've been very good, and while we remind them of it, there's never any bargaining that takes place. They've been very, very good at just matching whatever we say the new number is.
Okay, so this is a new number?
Absolutely it is, and it's about 3.5% higher than it was last year.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions from the board?
If not, I'll move on to the communications.
Just one quick one. The contractual service is up about 8%. Anything specific in there it's kind of a big jump, but I'm just wondering what kinds of things that might entail that.
The contractual services.
Because it's an increase of about 8%, that's why I was just wondering. Because that's in line with the increase pretty much.
That's a
across the board.
$25,000 increase.
I mean, are you adding things because of the dispatch center that, or?
Yeah, I think this is,
Yeah, yeah. Let's see. Oops, wrong.
honestly, at this minute, I do not have an
No,
answer
that's
for you.
okay. I mean,
I
yeah,
can,
just-
I certainly
I
will.
mean, yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking for it. I knew it at one time, but right now
What page you on,
has to-
Tom? This is for the police, obviously not dispatch.
Right.
Correct, this for police.
Yeah.
It's probably increase in maintenance and service contracts for some of our equipment.
one of the big places was the machinery large tool maintenance. Let me see, which is page.
35?
Yeah, I think 35 is right. Yeah. There's the live scan and it.
Oh, that's the live scan system. I'm sorry, that's the one that I just talked about.
Oh,
That's the live scan system for $30,000.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, so, but in essence, between the fiscal year 2014-15 proposed budget, it's $9,935,935,
Correct.
and that includes everything.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there any other comments or questions on this? If not, you looking for a motion to approve this, Chief?
I think you do it all. Motion for approve this?
I think we
I mean,
generally
we
do
can
one
do-
budget at a time. We just go ahead and
Okay.
do a motion to.
Is there
So made.
motion to approve the
Second.
$9 million plus budget?
Yeah.
Okay.
9935935?
There's a motion and a second. Roll call.
I didn't hear the second.
I had seconded.
No. Trustee Cook.
Trustees Williams, Hebda,
Aye.
Cook,
Aye?
Markwart,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
Schwartz.
Aye.
For the record, I vote aye. Motion carries. I just got a problem with the other budget. Okay. Maybe Hesner can pull some tricks, huh? Okay, motion carries. All right, what's next?
Communications Center.
Okay,
Again, the Communications Center, for the most part, is fairly static with what it had last year. We do have some new revenues this year because we have the addition of the Village of Lincolnshire Police Department. However, revenues didn't rise as much as we had hoped because Riverwoods chose to go with Deerfield Communications Center. And we now have the Communications Center revenue is also based on the E911 funds that we get from the telecommunications tax, or the surcharge, I should say. That also fell about $30,000 below what we anticipated. We are requesting in this budget this year the addition of one new full-time telecommunicator. And when we were preparing our communication center proposal and cost projections for assuming the dispatching responsibilities with Lincolnshire, we anticipated hiring one additional telecommunicator with the possibility of hiring a second one depending on call loading. We wanted to put some time and distance to see exactly how things worked out and what the call loading was going to be. Now, with nearly 10 months of experience, our overtime costs have risen to nearly $135,000. That number is probably a little higher since I wrote this last. part of that is due to sick time, vacations, short days, fatigue, training time. You know, there was some overlapping time when we brought in a new employee. They were in field training for an extended period of time. We extended one employee several times, had to bring in someone to cover that person's slot. So with, like I said, now with nearly a year's worth of experience, we realized that we need one new additional telecommunicator. It was planned, so it's not like an unplanned or unforeseen expense. We had just hoped it wouldn't happen, but we're at that point now. The rest of it is increase in costs. I see, now, the equipment one in here, you're going to see goes up like 667%. I'll bring that one up now. That is very misleading. That is the one-time expenditure for the New World upgrade that we go through every 5 to 7 years. This was an anticipated expense. We have been setting money aside for this every year, and I think over $100,000 of it has already been collected and set aside in the fund to pay for it. So it's not like we have to find an additional $150,000. Again, attached to the back of the summary pages is a list or a breakdown of all those high-ticket items that we have. Communication center stuff is a little unusual in that some of our expenditures that we show in the budget, we've never had to show it quite this way before, like a reimbursement to Countryside Fire for their people. And the way it works is Countryside, when we brought on Lincolnshire, we reimbursed them for 2 of their full-time telecommunicators that they brought on board. And so we collect the money is paid to us from Libertyville, and then we in turn reimburse Countryside for their telecommunicators to do the fire dispatching. So it shows as an expenditure in here, but it's kind of like a plan. It is an expenditure, but it's a planned expenditure. And there's a couple of those items in here like that.
Any comments or questions from the board?
One quick question on the 3 items that are down, the 9/11 fees, the 9/11 wireless fees, and the dispatch service fees. Why are those down specifically? Is there something
Well,
underlying and we're going to see continued?
Actually, I would hope the way that the building development is going in the village, that like the 911 surcharge fees should go up because it's paid at 75 cents per phone line. So the more telephone lines there are, the more businesses with large volumes of phones, the more that money increases. In 07 and 08, 09, when we had a lot of the businesses in the business parks closed down, we lost not just the revenue from the people shopping here in town, we also lost the telecommunications tax. Now, it has been coming back up. Unfortunately, I can't, all we can do is give you a best guess. I never budget more than what we took in last year. So it did go down last year. But now with some new businesses and things coming in, I'm hoping it goes back up.
And the dispatch service fees?
Well,
Do you want me to speak? I did the projection last year based on a full year for Lincolnshire, Riverwoods, and Libertyville. And it turned out we did not get a full year for Lincolnshire, so I'll be addressing that, through budgetary amendment later. But this year, even though there are some increases in Lincolnshire and Libertyville, there's no Riverwoods. So last year's revenues were built on kind of a faulty premise.
Thank you.
All right, so what you're asking for, Chief, is what, $2,538,049?
yes, sir.
Okay, and this is a 9.2% increase from 2013, 2014.
Correct. And the
Okay.
majority of that is for the new telecommunicator position.
Okay, and
And the new World system.
Correct,
Which
correct.
you already have an accrual of 100,000.
Correct.
it's the 773% increase item?
That is.
Yeah, it kind of caught my eye. I only got one eye, chief, so it caught my eye.
That's why I figured I'd bring that one up, because
I
that
appreciate
really,
that.
that really is very misleading. It looks bad.
Okay, so that brings the dispatch and police budget to, what, 11 million,
A lot.
11 million, almost $12 million. Or it's over 12 million.
Yeah, it's over.
Okay. Which is what? More than, what's our total operating budget?
The total operating budget
17, 18?
among all funds is 21,965,000. There's a little bit of a double counting there because we count the transfer to the dispatch fund and then we count the operation. So it's really about 20,840,000.
Okay. So this is
60%.
Yeah.
maybe 60? Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, 60%? Okay.
But we also compromise about 75% of the workforce.
Okay.
Kind of like a
Yeah,
square
I
foot
guess,
thing.
Yeah, okay. All right. Okay, so is there a motion to approve the budget of $2,538,049?
So made.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further comments or questions? If not, roll call, please.
Trustees Hebda,
Aye.
Cook,
Aye.
Markwart,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
Schwartz,
Aye.
Williams.
And for the record, I'd vote aye. Motion carries. All right.
The next two are going to be real easy. The DUI sub-fund is zero, so we have a zero budget. The DUI fund is money that comes into us for every DUI conviction in the, that we make, every arrest we make, and the subject is convicted, we collect $100. We don't spend that unless we need to. If we need to spend that money, we come back before the board and recommend a purchase out of that account. So there's no budget. We're not planning on purchasing anything this year, so anything that would come up would be an unanticipated expense, and we would talk with you.
What is the accrual amount as a reserve?
Let me
Is it
see.
16,616 going in?
Sounds about right.
Or coming out at the end of the year, or?
Let me see. I think that's actually about,
Page 65.
let me see.
P65, right? Yeah, okay.
But I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. But you're talking about the actual cash balance is?
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
about 41,000.
41,000 in that account currently, okay.
We anticipate about a $16,000 collection this year.
Okay.
That's the revenue.
And at this time, you have no plans to spend the 41 or the anticipated 16?
Correct.
Right. And actually, I'm sorry, and the DUI is, I may have put that in the wrong order. The DUI is about is 100,569.
So 101,000.
Yeah, yeah.
What page you looking at, Larry?
That's actually, those are from my financial reports. I'm not in.
So they're not in our
We're not in
budget?
here.
No.
Correct.
So that's
Those-
like considered top secret or something?
No, they're part of, when you look in our financial report at the end of the year, comprehensive annual financial report, it'll show a general fund balance, and then it'll show among that balances reserved for specific purposes, among those drug forfeiture,
Yeah.
DUI, and so it's a reserve part of our fund balance.
What is it total?
Between the two, about 141,000.
101 in the DUI, and
And we're not going to use it?
I see the wheels turning.
Like,
Maybe we could make a donation.
Maybe half a locker room or something, you know?
well,
Yeah.
you're already getting $10,000 for the sprinkler heads that you approved already.
Out of this fund?
No, you approved 10,000 in sprinkler heads in the police budget.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Those probably had to be replaced no matter what, right?
Yes,
The actual truth is, they were recalled by the manufacturer, and we have to replace them, honest to God.
Well, don't we?
No,
we
because
gotta pay for
the
it?
warranty expired. They're 22 years old.
Okay,
Honest to God, it gets that ridiculous.
okay, chief. Well, there's something brought a smile to my face tonight. Okay,
Motion to approve the DUI fund budget.
Second.
motion is second, comments or questions? If none, roll call.
Trustees Cook,
Aye.
Markwart,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
Schwartz,
Aye.
Williams, Hebda.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay,
Okay, the next one is the drug forfeiture fund. This works exactly the same way as the DUI fund, and I believe the balance in this one is somewhere around 41-ish thousand.
$1,000. Motion to approve the
Second.
drug forfeiture fund.
motion is second, comments or questions? If none, roll call.
Trustees Cook,
Aye.
Markwart,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
Schwartz,
Aye.
Williams, Hebda.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And the last one that I have is the Fire and Police Commission Fund. We have a budget amount in there of $10,850, which is about $10,350 more than it was last year. The reason for that is we're going to have to do a police test this year, a regular recruit test. These are the expenses associated with doing the written test, the psychologicals, polygraphs, et cetera. We know that we're going to be replacing at least one officer this year, with your permission, of course. We're going to have to be replacing one officer that we're sure is going to retire. And no, it's not Rick. Typically, though, you know, the money that, or the difference in salary costs from the person retiring and the person that we bring in at entry level covers these costs. And that's what we've typically done in the past. We've transferred it in to cover those costs.
And the test that you'll administer will provide us with a list then.
It'll be good for
to
2 years.
Not only cover any replacements and maybe necessary due to retirements or whatever, but also the new additional, should we decide to go forward.
Should you
with-
choose to move forward with that next year, yes, sir. Yeah, we expect, typically we get a list of about 30 to 35 candidates, and that list is good for 2 years.
Okay,
Motion to approve the Fire and Police Commission budget.
10,850.
Yes, sir.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? If none, roll call, please.
Trustees Markwart,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
Schwartz,
Aye.
Williams, Hebda,
Aye.
Cook.
Aye.
Motion carries. You know, Jan, what is the, I guess, bottom line overall increase in the budget from last year to this year?
Among all funds, let's see. Well, let me, among the general fund alone, it is $1,081,000.
So that's what percentage?
That is 5.6%.
Okay,
And among the, and that includes operations, debt, capital. Among all funds, it's $5,645,000 approximately, at 24%. But of course, 3.5 million of that is the police station. So without that, well.
so without that, it's what?
Without that, it would be about a $2.1 million increase, which would be about 9%.
Which most of it is for salary and benefits?
Well, let's see. Operations overall are about $22 million. As far as what our salary and benefit budget is, let me give you that number. Salary and benefits are $14,270,061, which is about a 4.9% increase. You know, some of the factors to consider in that is that last year's budget included no increases. We transferred for increases during the year. This year's budget, of course, includes the police, not only the police increase for FY 13-14, but the police increase for FY 14-15.
Okay. All right, so you get it, so the total operating budget is 20,
Is, let's see, is 21,966,000 approximately.
okay, so that increase is 25%?
No, the operating budget is an increase of 10.5%. Where the huge increase really is in the capital budget, which went up by 3,826,000. Sorry, but I have to say that
Yeah.
3.5 million of that 3.8 is one item, but
Yeah.
which is, but that's a 235% increase. It's hard to not discuss a $3.5 billion item.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Up again there.
Oh.
Yeah.
How many streets could we repair in town for that amount of money? You know,
Good thing we don't need.
okay. All right, so what's next?
Community development.
Okay, well, what's the increase here in the budgetary increase?
The department's budget is $919,794, which represents a 5.7% increase over the original 2013-14 budget. Salaries are projected to increase by 1.84%, or about approximately $11,000. That includes new salary for the assistant village manager, and the inclusion of the part-time electrical inspector who just came on board. Fringes are projected to increase about 19%. However, this reflects a single employee taking insurance where we did not have an employee doing that in the past, and it also includes health insurance for the new assistant village manager. Again, the previous assistant did not take insurance, and finally, contractual services are projected to be down 4.5%. Commodities are up 22.4%. The reason for that increase is that, for whatever reason in the past, we have not included monies for updating the village code on an annual basis. We recodify it, and when we do, and for the life of me, I don't know why it's never been included, but we finally said we're going to put money in, and Mike took that on, so he took one for the team on that one, and that's why you see the increase that you see in there at this point. And then equipment is up 17.3%, and that just reflects additional equipment to be bought by the various divisions and the like. So I guess with that, I can answer any questions that you may have regarding the community development budget. Again, projected increase of 5.7%.
Any comments or questions from the board? If none, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
So this is 919,794.
Yep.
Correct.
Okay. There's a motion, a second. No further comments or questions. Roll call, please.
Trustee Schultz,
Aye.
Schwartz,
Aye.
Williams, Hebda,
Aye.
Cook,
Aye.
Markwart.
Aye.
Motion carries. Capital sub-fund budget.
This budget is $713,340, and its items previously discussed with the board includes the $250,000 lighting for the VHAC soccer fields, which is partially funded by a $110,000 a park district contribution, a $20,000 soccer club contribution. The other major non-routine project in this is $120,000 for the Arbor Theater pond slope stabilization. I guess any more detailed questions on that, I defer to my colleague across the room.
The Arbor Theater slope stabilization is for how many different ponds?
That $120,000 is to look at the main pond where the arbor is. Right behind the arbor, it's starting to slough off to the degree that we're actually losing paver bricks. The slope is that bad. The holy boulders that were placed along that edge are sloughing, and we need to do something better. So we're going to get a consultant involved and take a look at it and repair that area. It's been in need for a long time. You may recall in the capital improvement budget before, we've talked about having a major line item to go through and renovate the whole Arbor Theater. I don't want to do that. I want to break it into smaller parts that would be more affordable on an annual basis. So this would be the first attempt to try to stabilize the edges of the ponds.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from the board? The soccer fields, this lighting is for what, 2?
The lighting is for the end
Towards the east.
the remaining soccer fields to the east side. Maybe 2 fields, maybe 3. I think you're right with the 2. One item that is within the budget that John and I talked about recently, in terms of the EJ&E bike path, we applied for some grants. We found out last Thursday we did not get the grant. They told us by yesterday that we had to reapply and spend $400 application fee. That part is something new. John and I talked about it, and we're not going to pursue it for this year. So we could eliminate this $20,000 because we're not going to move ahead with designing and moving that ahead for this year. We really want to chase some grant monies to help pay for that improvement. If the board still wants us to try to move forward without a grant, we could leave that $20,000 in, whatever the board's decision on that. So that's the EJ&E, south of the EJ&E. It would go from Butterfield Road to Indianwood, that bike path.
Well, any comments or questions from the board on that?
Wait on.
What is the total cost?
I think the total cost is in the range of $230,000.
And that's what, about an 8-footer?
Yes.
And, asphalt.
It would be asphalt. One of the difficulties is trying to get it to the north side of our cold storage area at the Public Works Building, working with the railroad, whether or not we can cantilever something out over that, or whether we have sufficient room to, make it right along the edge of our cold storage area. This was only for planning purposes, the $20,000. It certainly, we have no money in it for this year for actually
Improved.
construction.
Yeah.
That was something we talked about for future years. And as John said, we're going to put together a 5-year plan and, program those going into the future.
Well, I would think
So,
the folks that live up there might appreciate it, so maybe we should, I'm not adverse to doing the planning.
Well, yeah, will the 20,000 give you enough money to do your 5-year plan in enough detail that you can go forward with future grant applications with a better understanding of total costs and making the grant written so that it will in fact have a better chance of survival / fruition?
I need to understand a little bit better from the grant administrator why other ones were funded and ours wasn't. I think it was a lack of money available more than anything. Whether we would have more chances, I'm not sure, but that $20,000, the majority of the grant writing is it's fairly simplistic. It's more of just a plan and a narrative. We have $20,000 to help us with a landscape design along the adjacent part of it. We could use some of that money to get a grant writer to write it a little bit better. Let me check into that. Let me find out why we weren't rated as high as others, whether it was just they simply didn't have enough money, or whether there's some improvement in what we can put in that narrative.
Maybe you can change our name to A. Vernon Hill, so that we're at the beginning of the alphabet as opposed to the end of the alphabet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve this year's capital sub-fund budget of $713,340?
So made. Second.
Motion is second, and that includes the 20,000, okay. Everybody's clear on that? Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Schwartz,
Aye.
Williams, Hebda,
Aye.
Cook,
Aye.
Markwart,
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. Motor fuel tax budget.
So for the motor fuel tax, we've went out to bid. We found that this project, we budgeted, the proposed budget is for $1.2 million. The board previously passed a resolution for IDOT to have it at 1.3 million, so we're okay with IDOT. We opened up bids. There were 3 contractors. The contract price is $31,000 more than the 1.2 million budgeted. So my recommendation is that we revise this budget number here to add $31,000 to the road program. I will tell you that historically, over the last 15 years, we've brought the project in under budget, except for the one A-lamp project. So we will be under the $1.2 million. But from a budgetary standpoint, it's important that, that we change this to 1.2 million plus $31,000.
So 1,272,000.
Oh, Dave, was it 1.3 million, but plus the 41,000?
It was, for the road project itself,
Yeah.
it was 1.2 million plus 31,000.
So it's
That was-
not
yeah.
1.241?
And plus the 30,000
Plus
for
the
the pavement
31
inventory and the...
I'm counting up the, with,
So if you're asking what the overall budget number would be, we need to add 31,000 to the 1.240. Is that what you got, Larry?
Or one.
2.41, yeah, so...
1.271.
1,272,000.
272.
Okay.
all right, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second.
Okay.
No further comments or questions. Roll call, please.
Trustees Williams, Hebda,
Aye.
Cook,
Aye.
Markwart,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
Schwartz.
Aye.
Motion carries. What part of town, Dave, is this, are we doing this year?
It would be all of the corporate woods streets. It would be 3.35 miles of roadway.
Does this include the path?
No path was included within that price.
Okay.
Did we ever make contact? Are we going to try and make contact to see if there's a contribution available from Corporate Woods for their benefit, that we would manage the project for them?
We certainly can reach out to them, absolutely.
Is that, well, that's in the capital improvements, right?
We had previously presented to the board as far as the motor fuel tax. The direction was, let's not include it in the motor fuel tax project. It was left open that should we want to add a bike path system in there, we could discuss it as part of capital improvement budget. So,
Or we could just address it as a budget add-on at some later point.
Like,
It's true.
10 or 20 years from now,
I'm not gonna be there.
unless somebody wants to contribute something, you know. Okay, well, we should have that meeting, you know, what the hell. Somebody else can certainly attend along with me, because I would like to attend.
Be more than happy to join you, sir.
Can we do that in the spring when the snow comes off?
Not a problem.
Okay.
I'm sure everybody will
Maybe
be,
too early.
Hope springs eternal, everybody will be
Absolutely.
much more benevolent with our corporate wood partner. Okay. So we had a motion, second, voted. Okay. Next item is,
The Met-
K?
Right, the Metro sub-fund budget. Let me see, that budget is 58,700, or 77.3% decrease. Two big items we had last year that were more capital in nature, 190,000 for the parking lot resurfacing, so that's one reason we're down 199,000. The other big reason is we had 9,200 for painting and staining the platform in the station. So I think it'd be fair to characterize this as basically a maintenance and operations type budget for the
What kind of revenue we generate out of this?
about $92,000.
Okay.
What is the current status of the fund?
We pretty much wiped it out this year. So we're right around zero, and we're going to start building it up again.
Okay. And we're planning to put 33,000
Yeah.
into that.
Yeah.
So, Larry, the contractual services of 52,000 basically goes to who? Contractual snow plowing,
Yeah.
what's that, about 28 grand?
Yeah.
Yes, as part of the Martin and Associates contract, they provide the plowing services and they salt the sidewalks, shovel the sidewalks for us. That's the majority of it, 28,000. In terms of the other services, really limited to, Alpha provides cleaning of the metro station 5 days a week. So that's $5,000. And then we do have the fare monitoring boxes, so that's 2,500. Those are the larger line items
And then
for
utilities,
services.
particularly the electrical power. Well,
Okay, so this actually kind of, we have somewhat of a surplus, huh? Not really.
It generates cash that we then have to draw down when we
Right.
have to do
That
major.
we should put in, well, is this a proprietary?
No, it's a reserve component of the general fund balance, just
Okay.
like the drug forfeiture.
Okay.
When,
All right.
when is our next major expenditure?
The next major expenditure would be when we go to resurface the newer parking lot. It's holding up well. I don't anticipate that we would certainly be doing that in the next 5 years. I need to look at the condition a little bit closer. I'm guesstimating maybe it's 8 years out or so, but certainly not within the next 5-year plan.
Okay.
What is that lot of, is that 4 or 5 acres there? Just, it's gotta be as much as what, the whole station and platform and parking lot?
Yeah, I think the whole site was like 7 acres, including the pond, 7 or 8.
Oh,
I
okay.
think so.
That was the Cordeaux.
So it's kind of a,
Yeah.
toss-up as far as what portion's bigger than the other?
Well, it depends if you're talking about the parking lot area or the overall site. One of the great things that the board did was bought that property. It had detention facility already
Right.
built in for us, so
Yeah.
that was a good savings there.
So basically, though, this now has turned into really a self-sustaining enterprise.
Yes, I'd say there's probably some personnel costs that maybe aren't quite captured in it, but
Within reason.
within reason.
It's kind of like summer celebration.
Yeah.
You know, kind of within reason.
That's good news, because when I first came on the board here, this was a money pit, so. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, well. Okay.
Motion to approve the Metra Parking Sub-Fund.
Okay, of 58,700. All right, is there a motion and a second?
Second.
No further comments or questions, roll call.
Trustees Hebda,
Aye.
Cook,
Aye.
Markwart,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
Schwartz,
Aye.
Williams.
Motion carries. Larry Nakron, John Kilmer, Public Works Department, oh, Dave Brown.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let me ask you a question. You think, are we gonna grind through all of this
Oh,
tonight?
no, if we can do this one more, then I
Then
think
we're
we'll be in good shape.
And then we
for
gotta
the-
go into closed session.
Then we're in good shape for the.
Okay,
meeting.
so we'll do Public Works.
Thank you with understanding the
Where's
time.
the mortgage banker? Did he advise you at all, or? Oh, no, the court reporter. Who's the court reporter? Ed?
I'm not sure what the question is.
Who the hell was telling me that? He's not a mortgage banker
No.
anymore, he's a court reporter, right?
No, I think he's
Who told me
working-
that?
Ed is working for a mortgage company.
Yeah, I think.
I think he might have broadened his horizons according to another
I,
Public Works Director, Magnuson, as in
I-
Steve.
I saw him at Mike's retirement event just a month ago, and he was working on the mortgage.
Is he? Okay,
so-
all right.
Yes, he, as part of the career development money and education that this board provided for him, he was able to go back to CLC, and he earned a paralegal certificate, and he's
I'm
putting it to
telling you,
use.
okay, thank you. My God, I thought, I don't know what, is he, I don't, okay, I
He's
digress.
gainfully employed and enjoying it.
That's good.
He's
Some people
doing
like,
all
some people
the,
enjoy reading legal documents. Bob and him are two of them that I know.
he's doing the very tedious paperwork for mortgage refis
Oh.
and foreclosures and making sure all the paperwork is correct
Ooh.
before the bank files for foreclosure.
Ooh.
That's a lot of
Which
reading.
is a
Tedious.
change in direction from their previous history, but.
God bless.
Yeah,
But he sleeps through the night in the winter.
Yeah.
Wish I could.
all right.
Thank you very much. In terms of the proposed budget, it's $5,129,459. I did go through it, and there's a couple of things that I'd like the board to reflect, that there are some deductions that we can make, and those are highlighted in my narrative. There's one item for fuel that I'm asking it be slightly increased, but I'll go through that for you. The proposed budget increase is $718,744. Of that, $207,375 is due to salary and wages and fringes. The remainder is contractual services and commodities, represents the other portion, $520,000 roughly. Included in the budget of that $718,744, salary and wages. What we're proposing, or that increase reflects, we had some seasonal employees that worked at the VHAC, and those are no longer in that account, roughly $43,000. That used to be in a separate account for the VHAC, that's now added to my Public Works staff budget. So that reflects part of that increase. I have asked for considerations of a full-time employee to try to mitigate some of the additional things that Public Works is providing. Lately, what we've been impacted with is we have more events out at the VHAC, one of them being the lacrosse tournament. We are pulling in, I believe, approximately $10,000 for that event. We have to staff that. We also have Rib Fest has been added, so we have some staffing impacts there, and there's some other events. So those are some of the impacts that we're trying to mitigate. One of the large impacts that I'm trying to deal with is snowplow services. I've been able to, and not just this year, but previous years, my engineering staff, the 2 engineering techs, are now into the snow and ice service plan. So the hours that they're spending providing snowplow services, and they're also doing special events, I don't have that time that I can delegate to them to do engineering type work. One of the things that was very good, we talked about Ed Lonschlager before and some of the other retirement incentive considerations. My department is working through the additional 4,000 man-hours of senior staff that we're trying to deal with. The superintendent position was eliminated, and then the village engineer and director of public works positions were combined. So those 4,000 hours, I've been able to absorb some of them. My crew leaders and engineering techs are absorbing a lot of that, but their time in terms of providing more management time and being in the office, a certain slice of their pie means that they're not out working side by side with some of the labor force. So trying to get some of the work done is more difficult. So that is our reasoning behind trying to have a full-time employee added to the budget. It would start in November is my request.
Aren't you down an employee already? You had a
in this
disability
budget,
retirement?
yes. In this budget, I would be down, in the springtime, I would be down 1 seasonal employee.
Aren't you down 1 full-time, or did we replace?
We replaced
We,
that.
we were able to replace
was,
it. Actually, Jim, that's a really good point. We were able to hire Tony, who is a HVAC specialist, and he replaced someone who, was part of the labor force. He is spending more time doing HVAC work, and we were able to eliminate the contract for HVAC, and we had some benefit there. So the other thing that the engineering techs are doing is when we had the early retirement incentive program, development was down. That's one of the reasons we had that. Well, now we're having a spike with development. The Oaks, I'm glad to say we ended up pulling in $300,000 extra in revenues because of the services, review and inspection fees, and they're providing those services. Because of the spike in improvements within, parking lots, developments, and assisting Mike and his staff, there's a lot more need for engineering services, basically, because of development increasing. So that's why I have included the added position of a full-time starting November 1. We're also, I guess the last point on that is, we're also taking on the Muni Golf Course. We do feel that that's our building. We need to maintain that. That hasn't always been the policy, but that's what I believe. So we're trying to provide some additional services, and that's important to the village. So that's the salary and wage component of it. The remainder, really, the commodities, the contractual services and commodities. If you look at that increase of roughly $520,000, over $500,000 of that $520,000 is directly attributable to emerald ash borer. So the remainder is really an increase of less than $20,000. Of that $20,000, the chief talked previously as far as the expansion of the communication center. The communication center has a lot more impacts, and included in our budget is to provide 7-day service for cleaning services, where currently it's more 5 days a week. But there's a lot more operations happening there. The services we provided before, as far as cleaning, et cetera, is not acceptable anymore. So there has been a request from the police department that we increase that service from 5 days to 7 days.
Why isn't 5 days acceptable? Are they that messy over the weekend?
I'm
just wondering.
As part of
Or what are you talking about?
The new tenant in that building, they have more and more operations that are going there that weren't necessarily just the accountants that were there 5 days a week.
Okay.
The new tenant is a 7-day-a-week operation.
And are they paying us for our cleaning services, this new tenant? Or we're just doing that because we're nice?
I'm not sure what their contract details are.
We're doing it because we're
Who's
nice?
the new tenant?
No, it's an engineering firm.
Okay.
Remember, I believe the agreement was structured in such a way that
To provide
it was a
cleaning.
trade-off of some services, and that is part of our responsibility in providing cleaning. We'll get more details on that for you.
That would be helpful. And then Dave, back to your, why November 1st for hiring someone? What's the reason? Is that because of a retirement or why November 1? Why not
My request would be for the full year. I think that was something that we were trying to just mitigate cost.
So that could change, or you could go sooner than the 1st potentially, or?
The largest need is going to be for snowplow services.
Okay.
So if the board's decision is that I have to wait till snowplow season, I can mitigate the impacts with trying to move some of my seasonal employees around to help us during the springtime.
And I have one more question. What impact with the light show not occurring, or what's going to happen there?
Great question. In terms of the light show, if it does not occur, what I would like to do is catch up on some of our tree trimming services and some other services. Instead of contracting that type of work out, to what degree can we address pruning of trees, et cetera? I know the mayor always brings up along the bike paths and some of those areas that we do need to catch up on it. I think we need to provide more tree trimming services. Just contracting that out, I don't think it's affordable for us. So that is one of the major areas we'd like to address. Also, our building and maintenance staff would love to have the extra time over the winter time that they can get out and do more things within the buildings and general upkeep, so.
Okay.
Okay, any other comments or questions?
Yeah, just one quick one. If, in fact, the light show goes away, we're still going to want to retain and potentially use some of the fixturing. Yet, right now, it's stored on not our property. So do we need to be thinking about
It's in storage
rental
containers.
space or something?
But do we own the containers, though, that they're stored in, though?
We own some containers that actually, in discussions with Loyola, I've been able to secure approval for our largest light structures, which would basically break when we go to disassemble them into small pieces. They have cleaned out the carriage barn. They are allowing us to store the largest of pieces in there, the smaller cutouts, et cetera. We are putting into some trailers that are on the site. We may have to purchase an additional trailer or maybe a second to store things should it not continue into the future.
But even at some point, they're going to want to say, okay, now get your trailers off of our property.
Yes. So we do need to find a home for those trailers. We need to find a solution towards the future light show, whether or not some of these displays are being auctioned off, some of them being relocated, like potentially the golfer that might go towards the Muni and some of the other ones, displays around different buildings. What will the light show be going into the future? And I know that's something John and I have, discussed, trying to figure out what would that be. And certainly we'd love to hear the board's input. If it's not at the Loyola site, what do we do?
Are these containers stackable?
I don't believe so. I don't believe.
Looked at them, I don't know if,
A regular truck?
Yes, they are.
Truck
Yeah.
trailer?
Something
Okay.
you'd see pulled behind a semi, yeah.
Okay.
What-
With
what
wheels
is-
and.
now, one of them is still, Cunio's, does that still have, are we using it, or do they still have, they used to supply their Christmas, and there, wasn't a wagon or something in it too, or?
Yeah, yeah. A lot of the Cuneo relationship has migrated towards Loyola, and so there's not as much storage that they share, have available for us other than the carriage barn, which should development move forward, we would have to find another solution to put it into a trailer, get it off-site, like Trustee Schultz mentioned. And the other thing is we have picnic tables that for summer celebration, we store those on Loyola's property, so we would have to find a home for those also.
Well,
We
they
may
won't,
wanna
I
have-
don't think this is gonna be a problem with Loyola.
For a while, yeah.
You know, I mean, they got a lot of preserve over there.
Yeah, and if they go through a development process, they got a lot of time to go through that
Right.
too. So.
Right.
Loyola has been kind to us. The agreement we've worked out is we can store the larger materials within the carriage barn. They understand the development and schedules, et cetera. The promise and commitment that I made to Tim was just give me 2-week notice and we'll get it out of there when we have to. But we're still hoping that it still continues for next year. I've been contacted by Lake County Fairground staff, et cetera, and other entities, and they're asking us, what are we going to do with it? I keep telling them I haven't heard that it's not going on for
Right.
next year, and we're going to proceed in that fashion.
So you've taken that into account, though, with your budget numbers, too, because of when you talk about the extra events like Rib Fest, and you
Right
plan
now,
for that or not?
right now, I'm anticipating that the light show is going on for next
Okay.
year. Should that change, we'll have to have more
Have to adjust.
discussions.
Sure.
And let me help in terms of some of the things that we need to adjust in the budget from that number. And like I said, many of them are deductions, so if I could just race through those, and if you have any questions, please stop me. So the one that's an increase is actually in the fuel and lubrication budget. That needs to be amended upwards by $3,020. I did not adjust it to reflect newer gas prices that are anticipated for gas and diesel. The other ones would be going down. $500 deduction for equipment not elsewhere classified. Let's see. The Village Hall building and grounds maintenance, supplies and services, that can be reduced by $6,000. Training and conferences, that could be reduced by $600. Lodging, $450. IT equipment reduced by another $600. And then, let's see, the Arbor Theater, that can be reduced by another $8,900. We already took care of the gazebo and building improvement, so that line item can be removed. So, and we don't know necessarily, I was here when you guys were discussing the police remodeling. There is money in an account for that fire sprinkler head replacements. That's $12,000. If that moves forward, we don't need the $12,000 in this budget.
Actually, that can come out because the chief
It's
already
it's
had
duplication, right?
10,000, right.
Yeah, so we'll make sure that it's only in one of those accounts and it's the proper dollar amount.
So.
All right,
What's
so-
the bottom line
Yeah.
number, sir?
Dave, how much was the IT equipment reduction was?
Yes, Larry, the IT equipment was a $600 reduction,
And the Arbor Theater, 9,600?
and the Arbor Theater was $8,900 reduction.
Okay, so let me,
Sorry to do this to you, Larry.
So $9,500?
$1,000.
Larry's doing some quick math to help.
Well, I mean, it's only those two
We're
items?
down $4,500, oh, wait, and 4,500 plus the 12, we're down 16,500. And where is my calculator?
We're down more than that. 500, 6,000, that's 6,500.
There's an increase of-
7,100,
Yeah.
7,550, 8,250, 16,950, 28,950. 28,950 minus 3,000, 25,950. See how close I got.
How many tons of rock salt do we go through this year? Was it
I'm sorry.
3,000?
This year, we are topping the 2,000 ton mark.
Oh, we are, okay.
Yes.
That's it?
Yeah, I don't have the exact figure. We're definitely over the.
How many tons we got
2,000.
left?
We have roughly 600 tons still left. More recently, in the last 2 weeks, we went through about 150 tons. We had two different 4-inch storms and some other icing conditions.
Right.
Minus the 3.
We got another one coming, right?
We have another one coming
Tonight or tomorrow, or?
Tonight, overnight, and
One
right
to
before the rush hour.
And yeah, another maybe potential ice on
Yes.
Thursday
Ice.
and Friday.
And you're right,
Wonderful.
and we're starting to face the freeze-thaw conditions of March and into early April, so we'll be dealing with that, which is more salt needed for those type of applications.
So-
We're doing, you will notice that we're doing more beet juice anti-icing
Yeah.
programs also, so
Right.
trying to
okay.
mitigate some of the use of the rock salt.
Okay.
So Larry, we got a number.
Yeah, 5,103,509.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the 5 million number that Larry just gave us?
Motion to approve Public Works budget at $5,103,509.
Okay.
Second.
Motion and second?
Second.
Roll call.
Trustees Cook,
Aye?
Markwart,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
Schwartz,
Aye.
Williams, Hebda.
Aye.
For the record, I'd vote aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Oh,
Okay,
sorry, I'm so uncoordinated.
now we're going into closed session, right?
Not
So is there a
sure.
motion to adjourn committee hall, go into closed session to discuss personnel and litigation? Or
Pending litigation.
potential litigation?
Yep,
Potential?
pending.
Pending, okay. Pending litigation. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second, roll call, please.
Trustees Markwart,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
Schwartz,
Aye.
Williams, Hebda,
Aye.
Cook.
Aye.
Motion carries, thank you, and good night.